Hello and welcome to Extends by Strentex Project. This is a new podcast series brought to you by Strentex Project, a European funded project for research and innovation in the field of flexible and textile electronics. And with this podcast series, we aim to bring you closer to our daily life, to our science advances, and to generally everything around it. Obviously, to start this podcast, I am delighted to be in the company of Professor Goran Stojanovic, who is the project coordinator for Strentex Project. Hello, Professor.
Hello.
And generally, I try to have a slightly different approach to presenting my guests. Normally, I can obviously go through the CV, the achievements, etc. But instead, I would like to ask my guests to, let's say, give me their backstory, give me their origins. So, if you would like, please tell us a few things.
Thank you. My name is Goran Stojanovic, as you said, and I'm a full professor at the University of Novi Sad, Faculty of Technical Sciences, and actually the whole my career here. I graduated at the Faculty of Technical Sciences in Electrical Engineering department. After that I have a master degree, PhD degree here, and 2005 I defended my PhD. And in that period I was on some kind of the crossroad, how to continue my career. And one road was to lean on only on national funds, or if you wish to create a quantum leap in development of your career, your team, after that your institution, country and so on, you need in applicable field like electrical or electronic engineering field, you need money for equipment and skillful staff.
That's true.
And that equipment, we need for that equipment to provide new financial means. And my orientation after my PhD was to be trained and to learn a lot how to create winning project proposals for different funding bodies.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, to take it, because maybe some of our audience is not necessarily that technical. How does one, let's say, decide, okay, I want to find this to progress my career? I can get my own funds, be in the forefront of scientific advances, but okay, assuming that even you decided it, between I have decided it and I can actually implement it, how does that go? Is it difficult? Is it fast? What are maybe some obstacles?
Yes, actually that is a very good question, and connected with the reality. So the first thing in any career, I mean in any job, is to have a goal, let's say to have dream, and after that, without action, concrete step, it will nothing will be happening. There is one sentence related to the, let's say, religion and so on. When we pray, it will not go above threshold.
That's true.
Without concrete action. And actually, or hopefully, I like to work. If you ask people in my environment, they will say that I'm workaholic or coca-holic, and that is corrected, or chocolate-holic, because for my brain I need sugar.
Yes.
The concrete answer is like this. I have clear vision where I wish to be for 10 years or 12 years or 20 years if you wish. And after that I was ready to work hard that dreams came true or came in the reality.
I mean, they were not necessarily dreams, they were actually your hard work
Absolutely.
that enabled
Absolutely.
them to go
Absolutely.
forward. But
Absolutely. Which means you should acquire new knowledge and you should have work habit, and that is actually the most important. And to have regular work. I mean, there are many, even my collaborators and assistant, they work 3 days hard and after that 4 days nothing, and they lose continuity, and that is the problem. From my point of view and my experience, it's better to work even 2 hours per day, but to be every day.
yes, to have a pattern.
Yes, yes. In that context, you have a continuity. You know where you stopped in previous time, and after that, you can continue and have good results and visible results.
So yeah, obviously hard work is obviously the number one, let's say, key to moving forward. But let's say somebody who is, let's say, mostly in the beginning of their career, this hard work can mostly translate into papers, publications, conferences, etc. To turn that into actual project funding applications and actually accepted for funding applications, what is needed? Do you need a system that supports the individual to, let's say, spend some time on that instead of the research? Do you need maybe the knowledge? Do you need your personal connections? How does one start, let's say?
Yes, the first thing is knowledge. So you should acquire that knowledge and expertise, how to write a story, how to tell a story, how to sell your idea to the evaluators or to the funding body. The system is also important, but more than that, the initiative of individuals. I remember, let's say, 10 years ago, on one floor on our building, there were 3 researchers, and we simply encourage each other and transfer knowledge to each other to continue and to write a project proposal and to try. If it's successful, excellent. If it will not be successful, to try again, to run again, and never give up. And now that 3 researchers, 2 of them establish Bioscience Institute and have a lot of Horizon projects, and the third one, me, also. So all of us are very successful, and we continue to attract funding to finance our research and to establish our well-educated and skillful team.
Also, would you say that, for example, to have an idea for a project sometimes may not be enough? Sometimes you need, let's say, to overcome barriers that people may not think, because either we like it or not all countries are equal, not all universities are equal. Are there maybe some underlying, let's say, fears? Because I might have the perfect idea, I can present it to you from another university which I want as a partner, for example, for this proposal, and you might say, well, but maybe you're from Serbia, maybe you're not as privileged. Is that a thing, or is this just a misconception that people have?
I mean, related to the Horizon project or any project?
Generally forming the idea, because obviously the process of project, let's say, evaluation is standard, it's okay, non-biased, etc. But like to reach there and say, okay, I have this to submit.
So I will divide my answer in 2 parts. The first one related to the ideas. I always prefer to generate idea within my team. So very, very rare I was included there, or I will be included as a partner in the consortium, because I wish that we should be the fontaine of new ideas or generator of new ideas. And after that, we actually collect or gather the other beneficiaries, the members of the consortium. And that is one thing. The second one related in the European Commission, there is a, let's say, strong intention to have balance between geographical coverage of the partner in the consortium in the project. So I never have had any problem related to inclusion in the consortium. Even I was a coordinator, coordinating institution or partnering institution. All in all, it's important that we have innovative idea and that idea helps someone, and that someone has benefit from that idea, and after that they evaluator recognize that and finally approve that for funding. Related to the fears or something like that, or I should share my ideas to others, or maybe they can misuse my idea, blah blah. So I have never had problem with that. First, at the beginning, I'm very often say that if I personally have only one idea, that means I'm dry tree, and that means the projects are not for me, or I'm not the right person for this job. So and that can be applied for any other professors or researchers. So each of us should have that responsibility to have time to generate innovative ideas which solve some challenges of our society, and after that to, of course, in this science is not cheap in this domain, and we should try to find financial means for that.
Yeah, that was the next, let's say, topic that I wanted to touch. Basically, obviously now for some years you have had a series of very successful projects with several millions of euros under your, let's say, command, if the word is permitted to me. I think, because I have also had the chance to meet people from other consortia, etc., sometimes people lose, let's say, the focus that yes, I worked hard for, let's say, the project X, the funding is basically my effort, but at the end of the day I need to offer it back to the university, to the students, to the community, via, let's say, buying a new piece of equipment, via creating, as you said earlier, a product or an application that solves a problem. So many a time in our fields of science we're like, okay, but now I am the leader, so now what I have as an idea is the correct one, which might cause people to kind of like shut down, like create their own, how to say, team and be like, okay, that's it for me, now I'm recognized, etc. So just to ask you this as a question, to what extent do you think an individual project has the capacity to actually help the institution that it's hosted, like to raise its profile, to maybe hire individuals from abroad or from other cultures, etc. Because I think these are many times side effects of a project.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so I can agree with you. Only one project in any institution or the country cannot do, tangible, visible results for society, but many projects parallelly and with continuation can do that. Mm-hmm. And with the efforts of many projects, the results, outcomes, impact can be visible. And I believe in that. So in Serbia or at the University of Novi Sad, we have more than 50 projects, and I believe that all these projects can modernize, can change the situation, and every next year situation will be, let's say, clearly better and visible than previous one. Related to the profile of the staff, I really believe that it's important to have self-motivation and to see somehow the next step in your career, and to see, let's say, 3 or 5 years forward and in front of you, and to say, okay, I would like to be for 5 years there and there, and any knowledge, any skills, even that was some measuring procedure, instrument, or writing project proposal, or any soft skills, open science, ethics, moral in science, and so on, it's useful. And every knowledge in one day, it will be, I mean, we should be thankful to have opportunity to acquire that knowledge. Related to the leadership or leaders, you mentioned that in one moment. I always, many people, when I talk, for example, with my friends, they, let's say, give me advice. Oh, you should be the leader. You should delegate the task to your team members. But I'm not, yes, but I'm not so convinced and that is the right way, and that I'm so comfortable in that position. I will rather be one of the team members and not the bossy leader and so on. So I feel the best when I spend one day in the laboratory with my teammates and measuring something, creating papers together, writing project proposal together, and be proud of each other, changing the energy, knowledge, exchanging expertise, and going forward and growing together. If all of us will be leaders, who will work?
Yeah, totally. And also it's very important that you're saying that basically you're not one to dissociate from your team, because especially in research, from the time, let's say, a specific task is delegated until the time it's actually to fruition with some results, sometimes it's very short process, but sometimes it can take even years. And if you're just, okay, I gave you this task, then by the end of it, sometimes you're like, okay, now what?
Absolutely, that is very good comment. Just two comments to add. First one, I had the opportunity to hear from some of, let's say, colleagues and so on. Oh, my wish when I'm senior and full professor is to be on the sea and to sail, and other peoples will work for me because I bring the project, blah, blah, blah. And or to say, oh, my wish is not to work anything but to have money. But that is never my intention or never my dream. I simply like to work, and I like to work within the team, and that is the most important. The second aspect is, as you said, how you can understand team members, the problems in the laboratory, I mean, some measuring step or fabrication step, if you don't have personal experience working on that equipment and knowing limitation of that piece of equipment or some fabrication, critical fabrication steps. So only in that way you will have, let's say, adequate advice to give to your teammates, or even just to understand them and the barriers and challenges which they have during everyday work.
It's also very dynamic. It's not that one problem every time it changes.
Absolutely.
Etc. That's true. Now, okay, obviously you have currently had a few projects, but given the fact that we are having this podcast in terms of our project, Strentex, which is basically trying to create some output in the fields of flexible and textile electronics, please tell us a little bit more about your vision behind this project, how it started, how you wanted to finish, what, you know.
Yes, in one moment I realized that if we continue with conventional electronics, which is my background and my education, and I lecture and I teach my students classical electronics, silicon-based electronics. In my career, I also did computer-aided design and design of layout of the chips and so on. And I realized if I continue in that way, we don't have almost any chances to attract new funds. And in that period, let's say 6 or 5 years ago, I thought that we should change strategic direction of development of my team or my group, which means to start to develop non-conventional electronics or electronics on textile, wearables, flexible electronics, stretchable electronics, which means that substrate is not silicon, substrate is not rigid. Why? Because if my intention, which is to help people, which means to target biomedical applications. Our body is not square, which means we are not cube, yes, with sharp edges where rigid electronics can be attached. Our hands, chest have, let's say, a round shape, which means we should have electrodes, sensors, which can be around, curved around body, our part of the body. And that means we should have textile electronics or flexible electronics. And that was my clear vision that we should change in that direction and oriented our strengths in that direction. And it was necessary to find appropriate financial means for that. And that is the story how Strentex was born. I'm happy that finally the project was approved for funding and that we have a good team and equipment that we can develop that field in the next year, coming years.
And also for me, okay, honestly, not because I am a part of this project, but I think everyone with basic common sense can understand that the importance of vision, because in the time frame that you described, when you had this vision for, let's say, shift towards textile electronics, there was not a global energy crisis. There was not 2 years aftermath of coronavirus. Yes. Exactly. There is no significant push of the funders towards green agendas, sustainable electronics, etc. So to just have an idea like that all these years back just proves basically the importance of, as you said earlier, if you know your field, you need to really think of a good idea that really can tackle some problems and then implement it onwards. So yeah, that's great. In terms of Strentex, obviously we are a research institution, we're not a public company, or we're not for profit at this stage, but the field of textile electronics in consumables is rapidly expanding and is projected in the next 15 to 20 years to have almost 5 times more in net money, net revenue have increased. Where do you think products and research, not just projects, that are outputs of research projects such as Strentex can be positioned? Should they form coalitions? Should they be sold to established companies? Should they make their own research centers?
Yes, that is a very good question. First of all, the Strengtex project is a very good example how researchers answer on the crisis in our society. I always, when I'm talking even with the project officers in Brussels, I'm told that any project coordinator or any team members of the project is really hero in this period, in this time, because it's very complex time. When we started the project, the formal beginning of the project was 1st of January 2020. 3 months after that, we had the pandemic and the lockdown, and unable to travel, which is one of the important components in this project, and also our team members to come here and to start to work. Our laboratory was closed, of course, from understandable reasons, and we are in the practical field, so we need laboratory and we need access to our facility. And it was a really difficult period, but we used that period also as a challenge to help people and to answer on the new needs. And in that period, and thanks to the Strengtex, we developed many sensors on face masks for detecting respiration rate or capacity of our lung, or heaters on face masks with multiple roles to kill some viruses before breathing, or even just pleasantly to heat air, cold air before our breathing. So that is very good approach how public funds or European Commission funds can be used to very fast answer on new circumstances around you, and we really did in that period. And I'm really proud of all team members because we really successfully developed that prototypes. What to expect in the next period? So we really developed many practically oriented prototypes and demonstrators, and we had opportunity to exhibit them on many fairs, and we will do that in the next period. And now we are in, let's say, in 2 parallel ways. One, it will be to establish some company in this field, and the second one to try to find some investors in order to scale up our products, which means from few samples in laboratory,
production,
yes, to have many samples fabricated, which means to find place on the market. Of course, that is not easy story, and these challenges are in front of us, and we have first steps towards establishing the company and finding a legal framework and financial framework for that.
Okay, that's great, because generally, for the people that might not know, European Commission funded projects, at least in the calls that we are targeting, they generally range between 3 and 5 years of duration, give or take. And to be in a position, aside of the challenges, as we said, that are dynamic and may or may not arise, within, let's say, in a span of 3.5 or 4 years, to start a team, a field from scratch, build the lab, and actually be in a stage that you have products, which may or may not be successful, we don't know that, but to have a product that can actually reach the market, I think it's a great fit for a few people
Absolutely.
within a few years.
Yes, I totally agree with you. So uh, that is creating something that is functional. It's time consuming, energy consuming, money consuming, and I'm really, as I said, happy that we have skillful team members able to create that and to function, and that others can see what it's really outcomes, outputs from our laboratory or from this project.
Great. Well, I have so many things I want to ask you, but I know that your time is limited. So I will just direct whoever is more interested to the links below to find more information about what Professor Stojanovic is actually involved with and his websites. But before I let you go, now it's time to play a game, if you will allow me. I have named it Out with 5. Basically, it's not a game, it's just that I would like to have a common reference across all of my guests. So I thought to just ask 5 questions to each and just gather the replies, which might not necessarily be strictly scientific, but more a little an insight on their character.
Absolutely.
So I will start with question number 1. Who is the person, it might be dead or alive, it's not important, that inspires you the most?
Related to the in scientific field, Mihailo Pupin. It's one of, let's say, 2 or 3 the most famous Serbian scientists. Apart from Nikola Tesla, of course,
Yes.
who did the most important achievements or advancement for our society. The next one is Mihailo Pupin. Why Mihailo Pupin? Because his origin is or was from one village similar like mine, which means that we had or have to work very hard from that position, which means zero or sub-zero, to reach, let's say, for Mihailo Pupin, I can say worldwide glory or the recognition, yes. And in my case, even on the national level, to be recognized related to the success in EU open course.
Great. Well, obviously times have changed. And if the research was as constricted as in the times of Mihailo Pupin, I'm very sure that you would also have been somewhere there. Question number 2. If you had the attention of the entire world for up to 5 minutes, what would you like to say?
I would like to say that the first and the most important thing in every our activities should be kindness, generosity, friendship, love, which means to be good into each other, to any relationship, to start, to try in everyday activity that other peoples which you meet during that day to feel your positive energy, which means if you if we have some, let's say, some field of energy around each of us that other people can feel, see, or touch your kindness. I mean, to be good person, and that is for me the most important thing. All in all, at the end of the day, we are all humans, individuals, person with different characters, and that is of course okay. But I will try at the end of the day to go on the bed and sleep with some positive impressions which I did during that day, and I'm happy when other people's which I have relations with them during that day are happy. And contrary, I'm not happy when they are not happy, and even I try not to be because of me.
Yeah, and generally it's not something that can cost a lot of resources.
Absolutely.
Just your will to be, as you said,
Absolutely.
kind and
Yes.
understanding. Good. What can we expect from you next? Next, you can position as far as the future as you would like.
We already, or me already created roadmap for the next 2 years related to the new project proposals which we applied, and that will be in the domain of using waste or food waste to create electronic components for application in biomedicine, as well as to discover or to have better insight in electrical part of or application of, let's say, animals or other species, for example jellyfish or other fishes which have electricity as a part of functioning, living. And that will be the next project proposal generated from my team.
That's quite interesting. And as with textile electronics, at the time of its inception, relatively untapped. Great. Question number 4. What is one final thought you would want to leave our audience with?
Never to give up, to believe in ideas, on ideas, to have dreams, and to work hard to reach that dreams, and all of that to be covered with love towards other person or loves toward work, which means that passion will drive you to reach dreams. If you are not happy doing that, please don't do that. Try another things which makes you happy. And the good thing, one of our famous singer said that I have privilege to work for money, something which I will do even without money.
That's
so
great,
I
yeah.
have privilege to work the job which I really love, with people which I respect, and that is enough for this life.
That's great. Lastly, is there anything else you would like to say before we close out that we might have not covered?
Actually, more or less, we cover the most important things. Maybe the last sentence, which I try to transfer also on my younger collaborators, and maybe it's interesting also for audience, that I always try to create something, which means I also try to transfer that on the collaborators, to be creators, to be positive, and not to be to degrade something or to crash something. So it's better that after your career or after part of your career, to be something, some creation, even that is some prototype or child or project or product on the market or building, always it's important to be on a positive side. And the final sentence, think positively and act positively. That is the most important, and always you had also opportunity to see me or when I tell to other coworkers, just smiling. With smile, which means with positive energy, we can remove some barriers or even easily to tackle down some problems in our life, even it's professional life or private life.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for having the time to be with me today. And for the audience, all the links of the projects are below, so please feel free to comment, like, subscribe, and follow us for the next episodes. Until next time.
Thank you so much.